This is Planet Music.
Welcome to Planet Music from the makers of Planet Marzipan.
In a streaming world, we're proud to be a podcast that celebrates the art of the album. Hello, welcome to Planet Music. I'm Mezza. I'm here with my good friend
Craig, and also our two regular hosts.
Whoa, where you get back in your box, you. I'm here with Craig. And we also have Graham Tennick.
Good evening.
And Michael Kay.
Good evening also.
I was bigging them up.
No, you were. Get in your box, you. But we have another guest tonight. We welcome back from has previously been on our other podcast, Planet Marzipan. We welcome Gary Page.
Good evening. Hello to everybody.
He's all the rage.
He is. And he's here because he's got a real fondness for the album that we're talking about, which is the Pet Shop Boys' Behaviour. As you can tell from the title of the episode.
John, get it right.
It's just
It's
Pet Shop
Boys.
There's no the.
Behaviour. There's no the.
All right. Hey, you better be careful, because I'll start calling them Chip Shop Boys halfway through, because that's what I call them anyway.
It's the Pink Floyd.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, are we spelling it the American way? Are we talking about the American release? Or are we going to talk about the English release?
Oh, it's got a U.
It's not, yeah. Well, in America it hasn't. It was released with the American spelling. So,
which I find really amusing, considering the fact that he was the guy that worked for Marvel and anglicised the spelling in the Marvel comics for the British releases.
Had to be proper.
Anyway, we are looking at Behaviour. Bad Behaviour in this instance so far, but Behaviour by Pet Shop Boys, aka Chip Shop Boys. This was an album that was released on the 22nd of October 1990. And Craig, how old were you on the 22nd of October 1990?
Ooh, I was 18.
Mikey, how old were you?
I was 17.
Okay.
He doesn't have to think about it. Craig always has to think like, oh, hang on a minute, let me think.
Because Craig's official age is not his actual age. He's rounded down by about 3 years now.
I'm not age.
He's got plus that.
Yeah. We'll start with a reading from Wikipedia. Behaviour, released as Behaviour in the United States, is the fourth studio album by the English synth pop duo Pet Shop Boys, released on the 22nd of October 1990 by Parlophone. A Japanese special edition includes a bonus mini CD, exclusive artwork, and printed lyrics in a white velvet-like box. Harold Faltermeyer produced Behaviour at his Red Deer studio in Munich because they were dissatisfied with the available digital synthesizers and samples. Pet Shop Boys wanted to use analog synthesizers. Faltermeyer was chosen as producer as he happened to be an expert on the analog equipment. Mikey, your full disclosure, you're a huge fan of the Pet Shop Boys. It'll become apparent as the hour goes on. Do you want to give us a bit of a potted history of where the Pet Shop Boys were just before they released this album?
Yeah, so they had the most successful, as far as sales concerned, album to date with Introspective in 88. Followed that up with a tour in 89 of Hong Kong, Japan, and the UK. Before this album came out, they'd co-produced and wrote for an album with Liza Minnelli, which was Results. They had, during the time that the writing process for this was going on, and slightly before that, they'd worked with Dusty Springfield. And when her album came out in, I think it was the June of 1990, they'd wrote the B-side of the album. wrote 4 of the 5 tracks, but produced all of the B-side of that album. They'd also, Neil shoehorned his way into working with electronic. He'd heard that Johnny Marr and Bernard Sumner were getting together to do a thing, and he got, I think it was I can't remember who it was somebody he worked with anyway, basically said, ring them up and ask if I can, come and play. And he dragged Chris with him, and they ended up doing 2 songs together, which was Getting Away With It, which was released as a single in '89. And another song, which was The Patience of a Saint, which ended up on the album and wasn't released until 1991. But they got to play with Electronic over in LA at the Dodger Stadium when Electronic was supporting Depeche Mode.
Cool.
So they had a very busy couple of years running up to Behaviour. But I think they were kind of aware that they're, as much as Introspective did really well and sold in high volumes, especially in newer territories like South America, where they were beginning to get really big, they kind of knew that their imperial every single's going to be #1 phase was well and truly behind them. They were expecting Domino Dancing to go straight in at #1 everywhere, and it just didn't happen. The video for Domino Dancing had lost a lot of their American audience because they found it too homoerotic, even though you could tell by the video it wasn't. It was 2 boys fighting over a girl, but we won't go there. So by the time the Introspective wheels had stopped turning, they were very much of the opinion that they needed to go into a studio, write what they were considering to be 10 pop bangers in the style of Stott, Aker and Waterman, and Behaviour is what we got.
Didn't quite work out.
The complete opposite of that. Yeah. But for the very first time, they decided to work with one single producer for an entire album, which they've never done beforehand.
Okay. And you bought this album on release?
Oh, yes.
And Gary, did you buy it on release?
I did. I bought it on tape. I would have bought it in Eastbourne because it was released 11 days after my 15th birthday.
Oh, wow.
To be precise.
Behaviour was the reason why I bought a CD player, because I got this Japanese version with the extra little 3-inch CD in it, and I couldn't play it. I didn't know what was on it. There was 2 tracks which ended up being B-sides, which were Miserableism and Bet She's Not Your Girlfriend.
Which is a banger! Which is an absolute banger!
It is. Both of the B-sides that are actually on that CD, I think would have fitted on the album perfectly.
I would like the album more if Bet She's Not Your Girlfriend was on it. I think that's a brilliant track, but never mind.
But never mind.
Okay. And Craig, did you have it at release? Or did you just say Mikey?
Mikey played it to death. It was one of those. This album, even though it came out on the October of the 1990, it kind of became, this and Holidays in Eden became our summer album of 1991.
Sorry, who's Holidays in Eden by?
Some beat combos who we've heard of.
Well, we've heard of them because we do another podcast about them, but this isn't it.
Yeah,
Marillion.
Yes,
by the Marillion.
Yes, by the Marillions. And but these 2 albums were our summer albums of 1991. Even though this had been out, and obviously the singles were still coming out until fairly early in 91. Yeah. But it's a banger. Always loved it.
Grae, I don't suppose you own this record?
So, no, I didn't. And I, to be honest with you, I hadn't listened to the album until we decided to do this podcast. Yeah. On listening to the album, I do remember a couple of the singles. And I think that's more down to the fact, rather than them being memorable songs, although we'll get to that actually, it was more to do with the fact that they were everywhere at this time. I know, Mikey said it's past their imperial phase. It's past the point where whatever they did was gold dust, but they were still somebody that was considered to be of the time. They were really popular. Whatever they did was paid attention to. So I do remember the singles, anything past the first two albums, yeah, I don't think I could have told you what the albums were called, never mind what any of the singles were. But I definitely recognise some of them, and it's been actually quite a pleasant experience. You're going back to it and going, oh, right, okay.
I had, and I still have, Introspective. I love Introspective. I think it's a fantastic album. And weirdly, I bought Discography, so I don't know why I never bought Behaviour in between, but I didn't. Introspective is, I can see why it's their best-selling album.
But the thing is, Introspective was the last really successful album in America, because after Introspective and into 1990, the whole American market changed from underneath them and underneath every other band around. Because with the likes of Nirvana and stuff like that, I mean, you go,
that's it.
You look at the rock scene back then, where when Heart released Brigade in 1990 as well, and that was one of the last where it was all hair and fancy suits and things and stuff like that, and the stylistically, and it's when a lot of the radio stations fragmented, so you didn't have somebody who they all went like ultra pop and ultra R&B, and they all went like rock and metal and stuff. Pet Shop Boys, where did the Pet Shop Boys fit in? Because
this is it. They didn't take boxes.
Oh,
this is the problem.
Yeah, well, yeah, but they, just to sort of give devil's advocates of that, Depeche Mode's Violator came out in 1990 as well, and that goes against everything you've just said.
Interesting.
But they changed styles a lot. It was a lot more guitar oriented.
A bit more edge to them than the Pet Shop Boys.
Interestingly, I think so. There is a quote somewhere. Is it from Chris, where he says that they used Violator as a kind of, they'd heard Violator and they were influenced by it when they did this. Hence the reason you've got the guitar on a couple of tracks and all that kind of. But what they set out to do, and they admitted this themselves, what they set out to do with the album is not what the album became.
No.
And I think that might be something to do with the producer, and also something to do with the lyrical content and the direction Neil Tennant. I hadn't realised just how political the guy was. I hadn't really listened too much of the. This has been it's been quite an educational experience for me.
They're not disposable pop in any way.
No, not in the slightest.
And Gary, you bought this on release then, so you were a Pet Shop Boys fan?
Yeah, I was a child when obviously the big singles came out. I must have heard West End Girls, but it was actually that was the album that really drew me in. And funny enough, talking about Introspective, as a 13-year-old, I thought Introspective wasn't a proper album for about 10 years. I thought it was a
it's a remix album.
Yeah, because obviously the singles from it were kind of remix extended versions, and they weren't. And I just thought it was kind of this fun stopgap album, but apparently now it's a real album.
Well, compared to Behaviour, it is fun.
We'll get to that.
I know we'll get to it when we're talking about it, but it amazes me how. So you look at the album and you look at the singles and the single versions and the remixes that were done for the singles and the various releases and the US and the UK version. None of them were the same as the album version, and they don't. I mean, having listened to some of the stuff that Mikey's let us listen to over the last week or so, it bears no resemblance to what's on the album.
No,
it's amazing that the number of remixes and the collaborators they had and all the stuff that they did.
Well, being a Pet Shop Boys collector is very expensive, as Mikey will testify.
But I think that's part of the times, isn't it? It's part of what happened there.
It was at the time, yeah. I mean, there were lots. Going back to Depeche, there were lots of different remixes for Depeche as well.
Yeah.
It would be de rigueur to have 2 or even 3 CD singles for single releases with remixes on in those days.
But Depeche, they already started to veer into stadium rock, hadn't they? Although Violator's not a stadium rock album,
no,
it's definitely caters to the rock crowd than Pet Shop Boys. In my view, it is.
It's still. I don't think there's any live drums on Violator. I might be wrong. I mean, live.
I can't put my finger on why I think that, but when I think of the Violator,
there's a lot more guitar on it, isn't there?
Yeah,
there is.
Yeah.
But
and for me, it was the first album I really paid attention to from Depeche. To be honest with you, I mean, I love the singles. I'd never really paid much attention. Then Violator came out, and I was like, "Oh, hang on a minute, what's this? This is cool."
Yeah. Maybe that's one that we need to look at later on. But Mikey, do you want to talk through the singles in order, or shall we just pick them up as we hit the album
No,
track?
I think we'll just go top to bottom.
Okay. First track, side 1, Being Boring. Craig.
I love this. I'm going to say this too. I love this album. So I've from top to bottom, always have since it came out. I think this is, was it ever really going to be hugely successful as a single? I don't know, but it is just one of my favorite Pet Shop Boys songs of all time, and I love the video for it. I think it's really, really cool. And Brave starting it off with bare backsides, but there you go. But there you go. But Mikey, you'll correct us if I'm completely wrong. This was one of his songs that he wrote a bit earlier on about the death of a friend of his.
Yes,
Somebody used to know at the live theatre who died in his early 30s.
that's correct. Yeah, there was a song written by Neil previously and released as a B-side to "It's All Right" called "Your Funny Uncle," which is the same
That's about
person
the
that's
funeral as
alluded
well.
to
Yeah, it's about
in
the
this
funeral.
song. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's it's a classic Pet Shop Boys song. What can I say?
Yeah, it even now when I think about it, when I think about me in my bedroom playing my Nintendo, listening to this album, just reversing, just playing all the way through, I think that's why it's so ingrained in my head. But thinking about that, the third verse, I mean, man, it just kills me now. It's just incredible. I mean, the whole song it is my
Yeah.
favorite, one of my favorite songs of all time by anyone.
Wow.
But that third verse is just one of the greatest third verses ever written.
It's such a deep song, really, that what people don't understand. How introspective and thoughtful it is, and very. What I'm going to say a lot about this album is very melancholy.
Yeah, that's the one word I had noted down, and I think that connected with me even as a 15-year-old. I didn't necessarily know about the world, but I knew that I think it's the melodies really. It's just sad, the album, and that really sort of connected with me as a 15-year-old sitting in my bedroom, not very confident. It was all I had really, that and a few other albums, but it was just, yeah, it's just that melancholy that kind of stayed with me through life, but in a good way, really. It makes people reflective, and that's why the album's so beautiful.
Graham?
I think that it's really interesting to hear those perspectives from people who are even just a few years younger. I mean, my closest brother's 3 years younger than me, and the difference between us in our perspectives and the way we look at things is huge. So I was 21 when this came out, so I had a slightly different view. But it's really interesting, as I said, paying attention to the lyrics and paying attention to what Neil Tennant has to say on this now. I've got a completely different perspective now, because I was Marillion, I was Maiden, I was rock and prog and all that kind of stuff in the late 80s and 90s. But I loved the story lyric. For me, it was all about the vocal, not the vocalist. It was about the lyricist. And I think if I'd paid attention to what Neil Tennant was saying at the time, rather than the fact it was all electronic music and you were just pressing buttons and it wasn't what I liked, I might have had a different opinion. Because, like Gary's saying, if you listen to the words, they are hugely emotional. It's so interesting to hear it. Musically, Being Boring is quite boring. It fits it. However, the delivery, how he does it and how he tells that story, you feel the emotion in it once you realise what he's saying. And like I say, it's been really quite a revelation this week.
I don't think Being Boring sounds boring. I think it's the most introspective track on the album.
Yeah.
Because it starts with, again, Mikey, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not the single version, it's an edit of the long version, is the way it starts.
Correct.
So it's got like a prelude to it with some funky guitar as well, which is JJ Bell.
JJ Bell.
Correct.
Which is our link to
JJ Bell.
Which is our link to the other podcast. Yeah.
And I Being Boring for me is one of the standouts on the album because of that, because it's layered and it builds and then it breaks down again. I think it's a great intro, a great opening. But I'm going to hand over to Mikey. You'll have a lot more to say about each of these songs.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll apologise.
Don't apologise. Go for it, man.
I'm going to start off on a personal note, and it's similar to what Gary was saying. At the age I was when this album came out, as much as I was surrounded by a wonderful group of friends, I was very deeply struggling with my self and sexuality. And when this album came out, I was expecting an album of So Hard. I was expecting bangers and introspective and, dance music. And when I put the first track on, I thought, what the buggery bollocks is this? And I remember after my first playthrough thinking that was a waste of time. And I remember going downstairs from my room, having lunch, whatever, going back up and played it again. And by the time I'd finished the second playthrough, I was in tears. And there's certain times in everybody's life when I think an album takes you and changes you. And this was one for me. I don't want to hang too much on that, so I'm going to move on to the thing that Neil said when he first wrote this song was like they were constantly being told they were boring. So he said, right, we're going to write a song about this. And then it kind of did this left turn when Neil literally did find an old invitation to a party that he went to, which had a quote on the invitation, which was literally just dress in white. And then it had a quote by Zelda Fitzgerald, who was the wife of F. Scott Fitzgerald. And the quote reads, "She covered her face with powder and paint because she didn't need it, and she refused to be bored, chiefly because she wasn't boring." And from there on in, Neil writes this song, which, like Graham said, you've got three very distinctly different verses set in different times of his life. And you get to that last section, that last verse, and it chokes me every time I hear it. I'm getting upset talking about it. Recently on the BBC, I think it was last year, just before Christmas, there was a documentary with Alan Yentob, where he was catching up with the boys on the Dreamworld tour. And Neil reads some lyrics from the third verse of this on that TV programme. And you could see the tears welling up in him. And I was like, this is 35 years ago that this song came out, probably 36, 37 since he wrote it. And he still tears up at the thought of it. And it just moves me every time. What's the line? I never dreamt that I would get to be the creature that I always meant to be, which was him basically. He used to go around school saying, I'm going to become a pop star. He believed it, but he probably never really truly believed he would get there. And he did. And then he says, but I always thought in spite of dreams, you'd be sitting here with me.
Yeah.
And his friend wasn't. It passed. Anyway, like John said before as well, the intro to the song is literally just a cut down from the extended version. The extended version goes on for 10 minutes and 40 seconds. And it probably plays out a little bit too long.
It's a bit flabby in the middle as the extended.
It is a bit flabby in the middle. Yeah. There's about 3 minutes of JJ Bell wah-wahs and all the rest of it. But what I do love about this song is the opening that you mentioned. It's probably the first and last time there'll ever be a spinning plastic tube played on a Pet Shop Boys song. But it gives that wonderful whistle sound. It's just amazing. Hats off to Craig for mentioning the video directed by Bruce Weber, banned on MTV because it had side boob and bum. But, if you weren't Madonna or Chris Isaac, who were getting away with black and white videos, MTV didn't like black and white videos. So
it was before the film about Artie, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, no, they had a string of it. They had It's All Right. They had the So Hard video, which was in black and white, and Being Born, which is in black and white. That soon changed, but I think black and white videos were very poo-pooed on by MTV, and because of its nudity thing, it didn't get played. And one last little anecdote or two about it. When the single landed in the charts, it came in at 36. And the boys were actually at a photo shoot at the time. And they said all they did was just look at each other and go, you know, if Heart can get to number one, being throwaway, trite lyrical, I mean, even Neil would say now, he doesn't like the lyrics to that song. He just thinks it's lazy songwriting.
Yeah, but it's about momentum, isn't it? So, but they had the momentum at heart.
This is
We're on the way back down here. So
this is it. This is a different world for them now. This is, you know, we have to have hits, otherwise, you know, this could be no more Pet Shop Boys time. And in 1991, hit singles, regardless of how your album sold, were still very, very, very important.
No, they were very lucrative still back then.
Gary?
I was just going to say about the lyric again, about that first line of the third verse. Obviously, a lot of the things in that song don't really apply to me, but some of it does. It's just like about it's the not fitting in. But then when you become older, I remember listening to it when I was 30. I'd listened to I got into Britpop and rock, and I went back to Pet Shop Boys a bit later, and that song came on, and it was just like, and it was so life affirming that I've become the person that I hated being young, and now I'm 30, and I feel kind of comfortable in my own skin. And they've got another song called Metamorphosis on Bilingual, which is the same. It kind of does that same thing for me as well. It's just obviously personal, but yeah, it's just beautiful.
But speaking of the not fitting in, if we're talking about the next track with "This Must Be the Place I've Waited Years to Leave," I think that's also got a lot of not fitting into it.
Yeah.
If you read it a bit of that, you know, you moved away, changed your life, and then you come back home, you come back to somewhere where you used to be, you used to belong, used to be, and you don't fit in anymore.
Yeah,
It's not.
It was,
You know, it's
I always see those songs as companions, really. I know that it's
Yeah.
obvious because it's track 1 and 2, but
Yeah.
and there's stuff in there about school that I hated school. It's ironic. I work in a school, but I hate
that much. You've gone back, yeah.
and well, hopefully to make people's life better. But it's but that lyric
well
as well.
Saved. Well saved, Gary.
When I was a kid, was just like, he didn't fit in at school. He hated school, and that makes it all right because I can go and listen to my tape of Behaviour and go into my bedroom. So yeah, and it's obviously got Johnny Marr on it, which I wasn't a Smiths fan at the time, but as a Smiths fan now, it's exciting that he's popping up.
How do you find the track overall? This is track 2 now, so this must be the place I've waited years to leave.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, I find it the same as it's in the same ballpark as Being Born for me.
Okay. It's definitely a sister track, isn't it? I think,
yeah. It kind of goes through a linear kind of story of his life again. Very well, autobiographical.
Yeah. I think it's. I'm with Gary. I think it's a cracking tune, and it's got a fair bit of guitar on it, and it's got something that you would almost closely say that it's actually the first Pet Shop Boys song with what you could call a guitar solo in it.
Bit of a hook, yeah.
After a fashion,
Yeah.
but I think it's brilliant, and it fits next to Being Born. I think what the one of the beauties of this album is the track listing order. It just works. It has its peaks and troughs, and I think it works so well. But no, I think it's a top tune.
Grae?
No, I'm inclined to agree. So I listened to it without reading any of the sort of online stuff and what have you. And the second I listened to this, I went, "Oh, it's Miami Vice." It's like, you know what I mean? It's Harold. It's got that kind of rhythm to it. The keyboard part. It's that Harold. You can hear Harold Faltermeyer's influence, and I think for me, probably throughout this album, there's a little bit more of an organic feel to it than what went before, which is probably why I've responded to this quite positively. I think the song's fun. I think it's one of my sort of top 2 or 3 songs on the album. I really like. Again, it's an introspective lyric, but it's not quite as. It doesn't drag you down as much as the Being Boring is quite a hard listen. It's quite a personal, introspective, and like, you can hear the trouble in the voice. You can hear the why is it like this. Whereas this one, although it's introspective, for me it's less painful. It might be the song and the production, the way the music's done, but I enjoy this song. I actually quite like it, and you can definitely hear the Fault in My influence.
I'm really sorry. I'm not a huge fan of this. It's Pet Shop Boys have a bit of on certain tracks. They have a bit of a habit of Chris Lowe playing the melody, the vocal melody, and that's certainly the case on here. And I don't like that. For me, Pet Shop Boys are better where Chris Lowe's playing something that complements Tennant's vocal melody line, and he's playing the same thing on this, and I don't like that. I'm sorry to be the bearer of that.
I totally agree with you on that, and I've got a comment about that later on in the album.
I was chatting with Craig about something else this morning as well, and the other thing about this track, and a lot of Pet Shop Boys tracks, but he pointed out that some of the other artists I like do this. Basically, for me, Tennant found a great line and built an entire lyric around it. You know, and the one we were talking about earlier that I said is a bang. I bet she's not your girlfriend is another one of those things. It's a hell of a line. It's a great title for a song, and then he constructs a song around it. I don't.
What did I say?
He said Fish does the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, but he does. He'll write a title, and he'll base a whole album around a line, not just a bloody song.
Yeah.
I know that another lyricist I love does that as well, and he's from the same band as Fish used to be in. So
okay, but I don't think this is a patch on Being Boring. I think Being Boring is layered. I think it's got different sections. I'm sure the lyrics have this gravitas that you guys are saying for this, but this song isn't half as what preceded it for me. But I'm going to pass you to Mikey, who's going to tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah, the only thing that I would say about this in defense of John is I think it's been a little overproduced. I think they've just thrown one too many spoons into the kitchen sink. But that's it. As far as I'm concerned, this is as epic as Being Boring. It's just a darker twist. It's that fever dream where you wake up and you think, I didn't want to dream of being back in school. I even now have dreams, like nightmare dreams about being back in my first workplace. You know, that, I don't want to be quoting lines, but that fear of feeling hopelessness. I don't want it. You know, I don't want that in my life. And I think we've all had dreams like that. And that's what he's trying to say in this. What I don't understand is his introduction. This is the problem with albums, I think, that came down sort of like around about the time of Glasnost and the Berlin Wall coming down, is that there was very strong influences coming through. You've got Chance going on after the guitar solo. Johnny Marr's amazing guitar work on this. You've got Chance of Lenin going on, spoken in Russian. At the very end of the track, as it fades out, you can hear some Russian speech going on.
Yes.
Translated, that's actually taken from the Moscow trials in 1936, and translated into English, it says they must be shot like dogs. Why that's in the song, I don't know. It doesn't fit the lyrical content of it. I think as much as it's interesting and it's intriguing and it's you know, I can sit and analyze these songs until the cows come home, but I don't quite understand why it's in there.
So I wonder if we think about where it was recorded. So the wall came down in 1989. It was still West Germany when it was recorded, but it was at, I mean, if they are there at that time, when the walls come down, there's all this talk about Glasnost and what's going on and all this kind of. I mean, we know what's coming later on the album, but you can't help but be affected. Something as massive as that change. Why it's there, I don't know, but I can understand it permeating. I mean, if you think about all the singles, the albums, all this kind of stuff that had a song or a theme or something about freedom, the end of the wall, humanity coming together, the end of tyranny, all that kind of stuff. That at that period, everybody did it.
Yeah.
So I can understand it being there. I'm not sure the relevant.
The right track, the right song for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The song itself, though, I mean, the melody of it goes back a few years earlier when they had an inkling or an industry inside whisper that they may be asked to do the theme song for a Bond film. So this song germinates from when they were going to write a Bond theme. So all these like dark twangs and do 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 do. That was going back to I think 87, but obviously it was
Living
for the
Daylights
Daylights film. Yeah. Going back to what John said about Chris's lyrical stuff going on in the background, that everybody, which is just relentless throughout the entire track. I actually love that. And what Chris was trying to do was replicate a song called Jack Your Body. I don't know if any of you ever.
Yeah.
Jack
I wasn't.
Jack Your Body.
I was more concerned with the fact that the keyboard melody was the same melody as the vocal melody. So the same thing.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
There's no point to that to me.
No. Yeah, I get that. So other than that, on the Japanese 3-inch bonus CD that we got with Behaviour was a full 10-minute extended mix of This Must Be the Place, which does make me wonder, and it's never ever been said otherwise, whether they intended this to be a single at one point.
Right. Okay.
In the UK, we got a 7-minute cut down version of the extended version, which was on one of the B-sides of CD2 of Jealousy when that was released.
Okay. Let's go on to the next track, To Face the Truth. Gary?
What did I write down? A Lost Soul classic.
Yes.
It's kind of, well, I love the I love a cheap drum, like a 808 kind of drum. I think it's an 808. I wouldn't know for definite, but yeah, it's just they'd never done anything like it. I don't think. Maybe something on Please, but they hadn't done anything for a while that was so kind of soulful. I don't think. And that was kind of, I remember hearing it thinking, wow, it's going to take me a while to get used to this. But yeah, it's a real change from the first two, isn't it? It's kind of real kind of contrast, but a beautiful song. It's hard for me to talk about these songs because they are, as probably Mikey, they're so ingrained in my head that I don't think I can be objective. Like,
that's fine.
I'm just thinking,
I can balance that out, Gary. That's fine.
No, but it's really interesting hearing you, Grae, and you, John, kind of listening to it fresh and hearing things that I, kind of just take for granted because it's just so ingrained.
If I'm honest, that's one of the pleasures of talking about all these different albums, because we've already done one that I hadn't listened to that John thought was a classic, and I think we all agreed it was and stuff. And it's very much a case of there's things that you've listened to all your life and you have no perspective on them, but then somebody can come along and say, but what about this? And you go, oh, I hadn't thought about that. Oh yeah, right. And it gives you, but we all, I mean, we've disagreed about a couple of songs. We've not really disagreed about, not on this podcast, we've not really disagreed about many albums yet. But we all have different songs that we like and different versions of, we have different perspectives of it on every album. And I think that's one of the values of it, is like, no one's right or wrong. We all just like what we like and explain how we feel about it. And it's cool.
Well, I only played this through for the first time today, this morning. I spoke to Craig at dinner time about something, and then I played it again this afternoon. And I needed to do that because my initial thought on a lot of the tracks was there's not much going on here. But with the second play, it revealed a lot more.
I was exactly the same. I listened to it the first time. Admittedly, I played it in the car while I was driving. I had an hour and a half's drive. So I thought I'll put it on because that way no one's going to interrupt me. And I listened to it. And at the end of it, I thought, I don't think I actually paid attention to any of it. I played it again when I was at home and I'm like, oh, hang on a minute. There's a little bit going on here. There's something going on there. And, oh, hang on. Is that a guitar? Who's that? And so it did reveal itself.
It's a lot. The sound is a lot more lush than I thought on the first playthrough. It's difficult for me because I'm listening out for some live drums or something like that that's going to really pique my interest, and it's not there on this record. It's not what it's for. So I've got to look for different things. But anyway, it's not about me. We're talking about track 3. Grae.
This is another one of the, we're staying with the, like, through the whole album, the melancholy feel. And I think this one's it's one of the infidelity kind of tracks where it's difficulty accepting the reality of a situation and a relationship. And it's deep, and it's heartbreaking as well. But that's a good tune.
Okay. I mean, to me, it's on just hearing it twice. It's a love song, but it's one side of a love story.
Yes.
So it could be unrequited love, or it could be, as you're saying, somebody's broken up. It's a great lyric. It's a fantastic lyric. I really enjoyed it, much more than the track before.
Yeah.
But I'm going to hand you over to Mikey, who's got a lot.
To the boss.
So before Mikey butts in, so can I just so what I've written down there is like I put soul music, WTF, and I put Neil's actually singing because this is the one. So it starts off and it's quite melodic and so, which for me is not what in my head that's not Pet Shop Boys. And then when he starts singing, he is actually singing. He's not doing his normal telling a story
monotone thing
through talking vocals. He's actually singing. The only thing with it is it's the first point. So there's a couple of points in this album where I can hear issues with the vocal, and around 4 minutes 5 seconds there's a drop in of a truth, and you can hear it all the way through, and you go, and there's a truth that doesn't sit with the rest of it. It's almost as like he's had to overdub it, and I'm like, what's that? And it's the first time in about there's 3 or 4 points in the album where I go, hang on a minute, that's whether it's part of the remaster or something, it's just something that doesn't sit right. But as a song, it's fantastic.
Go on then, Mr. K.
Well, I'm just going to throw something in that might back what you've just said there, Grae. Neil actually wrote this thinking of writing a song in the style of Everything But the Girl. So he wanted his singing style to be quite different. And also he was inspired quite a lot with working with Dusty Springfield, which is why the third verse, he changes the melody of the song. The way he sings the third verse is completely different to the way he sings the first and second verse. But anyway, the song opening with those, it's almost like a whistling sound. It's almost like trains pulling into a station. It honestly, it sends shivers down my spine every time I hear it. His vocal delivery is, like you say, it's Neil singing. It's not just shouting words or whispering them in the case of being boring. It's a stripped back song, yet it's got a lot going on in it at the same time. It's what I wrote down was painfully beautiful. And yes, Craig, it is a heartbreaking song. When I've been in situations in my life where things haven't been going quite the right way, this song's one of my go-tos, just to curl up in a dark room and just shed a few tears. You know, it's a wonderful thing. It really is. It's a wonderful thing. The line "You're the one, the only one" is actually lifted from the film Midnight Cowboy, where Joe's wife runs up to him and when he's getting pulled away, and she says, "You're the only one, Joe, the only one." So you're probably right, Johnny probably wrote the whole song around that.
And then he revisited it for Hotspot.
Yeah.
He's got a great knack for doing that. I mean, it's not a criticism.
No, Neil, having been a member of the fan club for quite some time, I know what
30 years.
I know what Neil does as a lyricist. He does write down sayings, words, sentences. You know, like, I don't know what you want, but I can't give it anymore.
Yeah.
And he makes that into a song. That's what he does. He's no Bernie Taupin, but what he does write sometimes is extremely, extremely clever. This is poignant. Honestly, it makes me want to cry every time I listen to it. It's one of those gut-wrenching lyrics, and it's probably one of my favorites on the album.
Okay, let's move on. Track 4 is "How Can You Expect to Be Taken Seriously?" Gary?
Well, it's probably, I'm going to put it out. It's probably my least favorite song on the album.
Is it?
But I'd much prefer the B-side to "Where the Streets Have No Name." There's a version of it on there, but I think it's Brothers in Rhythm, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
I much prefer that version, and but I think it's funny how they put that on the B-side of a song written by U2, because I think obviously the song, well, I've read into it kind of the little digs of like the rock stars like Phil Collins and Bono and Sting of the time, all those kind of artists. It's clever. It's clever Neil Tennant in it on this one. But I wouldn't say it's my most. It's probably my least favorite song on the album.
Okay. Great.
I think it's the least emotional song on the album. It is Neil sticking a middle finger up to like rock pomposity at the time of people, thinking that they're all so big and clever. And I think the video is fantastic because it's such a pastiche. It takes the piss out of boy bands and everything as well, and it's so clever and so tongue in cheek, and it's a proper middle finger to so many people.
Well, there's a quote on Wikipedia saying that it was inspired by a female pop star from 1989. That's all it says.
Okay.
Really?
Mikey's saying a no.
But
again, this is
credited to Mr. Tennant.
Okay, but this song is, you can almost see it as the build up and the sister track to their cover of Where the Streets Have No Name, and again trying to tear down the rock, what they saw as pomposity, where there's such a there's such a blurred line between rock and pop. There always has been, and to try and people think that to look down on pop, it's just ridiculous. But it's a canny tune. It's not by far one of my favorites of theirs, and I think it doesn't have any of the emotional depth of the rest of the songs on the album.
I don't think it's meant
single,
to, is it?
No, sorry.
I don't think it's meant to have that emotional depth. I mean,
tell by the title.
The first 3 songs are quite heavy overall. This one, the only notes I've put for this is video is funny, really worth a watch, and the song is the Pet Shop Boys at their best, and it's good. Because to me, the first 3 songs on this album none of them are really what I would expect from the Pet Shop Boys. If all you know is the singles, then they really aren't what you expect. Whereas this, to me, is a Pet Shop Boys song, and it may be why whoever was it, Gary, that said it's the song that you like the least. It's because this album was very much a step change for them, and this song I think is a real step back to what they had done previously. So it doesn't I don't think this song fits as well on the album as the other stuff.
No, I think I went fully in on the album at
Yeah,
15, and even the emotional kind of heft of it all.
which this doesn't have. This is a piss
Yeah.
take. You know, it's there. I want. No, I was going to say I want to break free, but it's not. You know what I mean? It's that kind of the videos that kind of pastiche of characters and stuff. And fair play to him for getting dressed up and taking a piss. I love it.
I always think of this from the EP. So I had the CD EP of Where the Streets Have No Name, this track, and Bet She's Not Your Girlfriend, and it's a great EP. It's not the best track on the album by any stretch, as you've said. It's a fairly low to middling Pet Shop Boys single. I mean, it changes the mood of the first side of the record. Whether that's for the better or not, I'm not sure. I think it is, but I think you guys that are really sort of hanging on the lyrics of the previous three songs, it might be a bit jarring. I could see that. Mikey?
It definitely changes the pace of the album, doesn't it? It comes in with a bit of a jarring crash. And it's like, oh, okay, here's the banger that we've been waiting for. But I'll take on board everybody's comments and I'll throw some bits and bobs in. I prefer the Brothers in Rhythm mix as well. That was on the single release. But obviously, they put together the album first, blah, blah, blah. The remix came later, so it wouldn't have gone on there. But it probably would have fitted better had it been that mix at the time. I think that Bet She's Not Your Girlfriend would have fitted in this slot instead of this song better. I think it's a better song. I think Pet Shop Boys doing the crass piss taking lyrical thing, it's brilliant, but I just don't think it's right on this album. I think they do the piss taking stuff far better later on in their career. They do a song called Shameless, which was the B-side to Go West. It's just knocks spots off this, but I get it for what it is. There was a lot of pomposity in pop at the time. Neil has said that the song itself is directed at 6 people, but he's never going to name them 6. I know for a fact that Bono and Sting. Yeah, exactly. You've got George Michael, Bono, and Sting, which are in the top runners for this. Under no circumstance they are. But also, what I forgot to mention in the run-up to the album talk that we did at the start of the pod was they just parted ways with Tom Watkins, their old manager, and they'd set up their own partnership. So obviously when they were leaving Tom Watkins, Bros had just come in, and Neil had said they were on, I think it was Wogan, and their second album was going to come out, and they were talking about, they'd been asked a question, and their response to the question was, oh, it's all about longevity. You know, we're in this for the longevity. And Neil said they lasted 3 months and that was it. Their career was over.
It's funny. There's a meme going around at the minute, isn't there, with their boss, saying, when will I be famous? And somebody's put 1988-1998.
Yeah. So I think you can put Bros into the mix with the thing, but they also have a genuine dislike for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as well. I think, people getting dressed up to go to a big dinner, to have people voting on who should or should not get in on the basis of,
Let's be honest, Neil's not bitter and twisted about the business at all, though, is he?
Not in the slightest, not in the slightest. I don't have a problem with any Pet Shop Boys songs in general. This isn't a song that's particularly high on my list of go-tos. I used to often listen to Behaviour on a night time when I went to bed. Craig would listen to his talk radio. I would listen to Behaviour, but I would program and sequence the CD, and that was a one that was just left out. I didn't need anything to wake me up halfway through the night. So yeah, it would jump straight from track 3 to track 5 for me.
Okay. Well, let's move on then. Track 5 is Only the Wind. Gary.
I didn't write much about this, but just said back to soul. I love the I don't because the intro's got that kind of it's not jarring, but it's got that kind of synth string
Keyboard stabs, isn't it? Like,
Yeah,
It's a bit atonal, isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah.
But another kind of we're back to the kind of melancholy.
Yes.
But yeah, just a beautiful record. I mean, I know we've got people from the Northeast on this podcast, and I'm about as far away as Northeast as you can get. But to me, it's kind of it has that kind of feeling of that. Whenever I've been up there, it you know when music creates a picture in your head and a feeling.
You talking about Middlesbrough?
But you know, like kind of I don't know. It's hard to explain. But I
Have
guess
you ever been to York, Gary?
I have. I've played in York.
This ain't
No.
talking about York.
No.
No,
Dude.
I have to agree with Gary. I'll wait till
Yeah,
he's finished.
please save me, Graham.
Yeah, I'll wait till he's finished, and then I'll join in.
I think
Save me.
you're right. I get what you mean. I think Neil definitely with his album, and we'll just discuss it later on, especially with the So Hard video. He's wearing his Newcastle roots on his sleeve and his northern roots, and he's not an artist who has forgot where he comes from. He knows where he comes from, and you know he can still, even though he's got a posh Newcastle Geordie accent, it's still there.
He's still a canny lad.
It's still a canny lad.
He's still a
But no-
canny lad. Yeah.
No, I think this song again is a bit of a heartbreaking one. You know, it's very much the aftermath of an argument song. Where you
Yeah,
have
I mean,
the
I'm
Derek
listening to everything you're saying, and I'm thinking it's about anger.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, I think lyrically, there's a line in it which I think links with So Hard. You know, saying we don't lie anymore. Links that, and it's you know the last line of the song at the end is "I'm sorry."
Yeah. I mean,
It's
yeah, I mean, when life is calmer, I have no doubt, no angry drama, the storm blows itself out. I mean, yeah,
morning after the night before.
definitely.
Yeah, the musically going into the chorus is like sublime.
Yeah,
Just-
and
yeah,
it's
that
just
movement.
absolutely beautiful and sad song.
Grae?
I just confirm we are talking about Only the Wind, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yes,
Why?
So
it's not a fart song. Get paid.
no, I agree with Gary. It does go back to that soul vibe. It's got that kind of the electric piano, the singing, and what have you. But it falls really badly into the thing that you don't like, John, which is the piano line. The single note line
Yeah.
follows the lyrical.
It
the
does,
lyrical
yeah.
part and
It
melody,
does, yeah.
and it drives me insane during this song because it's not even well done. The music is, you know, the keyboards and the lush sounds in the background. Or it's got that cheap Bontempi 808 sound in the background going and all that kind of stuff. But it sounds lush, and all the, you know, the pads and everything sound great. And then you go do 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 with a cheap electric piano sound. I'm like, what the fuck? But the actual lyrical content is fantastic. It is that kind of it's angry but sad. Whether it may be angry at himself, the morning after.
That's how it.
That's how I'm reading it.
It's almost like he's embarrassed at his own anger.
Yeah, exactly. So my notes were the piano's awful. It's a simple arrangement but beautiful, and it's got that kind of lounge lizard sleazy feel to it. And I think that's that kind of that self-loathing thing comes through. But it's beautiful because of it. It really is.
Yeah.
And I never thought I'd say that about a Pet Shop Boys song in my life. So yeah, well done, Mikey.
Yeah, I just echo what you've just said there. I mean, the lyrics are just amazing. It's only the wind, how it takes you by surprise, suddenly begins, then before you know it dies. My hands are not shaking, I don't touch a drop. You must be mistaken, I know when to stop. Incredible lyrics.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't add anything to what you guys have said, including Grae, because I do agree with some of that as well. Mikey?
Right. Okay, Grae. I take on board your comments about that keyboard work. I will direct you to a live version, which was performed on the Nightlife tour. So if you go to YouTube and look up Pet Shop Boys montage, I dragged Craig along with me to see them on the Nightlife tour. It was a
1999.
it was a Telewest arena then.
We were quite down near the front.
We were about 3 rows from the front.
Fan club tickets.
There was probably only 3 rows from the front filled, thanks to Jerry Goldsmith collapsing. But yeah, the live version of it is more lush, and they did actually on the same tour. They did a complete reworking of Being Boring as well. That's worth checking out. It's very hard hitting and darker, much darker. So yeah, I think the problem that I've got with this song for me is it's kind of the wind as a metaphor for domestic violence, and the line at the end saying "I'm sorry" isn't necessarily somebody actually apologizing, because the way to lure a victim into domestic violence is by perpetuating it. You know, the whole thing about you must be mistaken, I don't touch a drop. Of course they do. They do drink. They're raising their fists. They're shouting. I think it's one of these.
I don't think it's as severe as. I don't take it as being as severe as domestic violence.
Domestic violence in all forms, John. It doesn't necessarily mean it's violent.
No.
Domestic violence can take also whether it's mind games as domestic violence. You know,
it can. But simple argument. These you could apply these lyrics to a simple difference of opinion between a married couple who would violence. You know, some people are prone to bursts of anger that they don't manifest themselves in violence.
No, true. I'll read something that Niels wrote about it, which is in the liner notes for the deluxe edition. He says, "The wind made me think of anger. So the idea of the song was someone's gone round to see a couple. You know, when you arrive at someone's house and there's obviously a major row just happened and one of them's not there. It's a couple and he's a wife beater. Everything he says is a lie. No one's been lying. He thinks she's been lying to her, so he's whacked her. It's a very violent song, and the wind is a metaphor for domestic violence and for a huge row. He keeps denying you can hear anyone crying, stuff like that, because the wind's disguising the sound." And that's from Neil.
I still think it's a lyric that can be taken.
It's universal, yeah.
Things, yeah.
Yeah. But it was actually written during some very, very violent storms, which is where he got the idea from. Going back to music,
I thought you were going to say it was during a particularly violent bout of wind he had.
The string work on it, the arrangement, Angelo Badalamenti, who obviously had worked on Blue Velvet, the film, and then went to work on Twin Peaks. He'd obviously, I think Neil and Chris had been to see the premiere of Blue Velvet, and then contacted Angelo to get involved with the orchestral arrangements that were needed for the album. So there was this, and this must be the place that he did orchestral arrangements on. I think it's a wonderful song anyway. It's another heartbreaker, another one which, you know, used to wrap me up at night and bring on the tears and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, it's another one that's very ingrained into history. Love it a bit.
Okay. Let's move on to track 6, My October Symphony. Gary?
The Return of Johnny Marr.
Yes.
Yeah, the guitar playing on this is brilliant. Yeah, what did I say about it? It's I've never heard, I listened to it in the car on the way to work, and knowing how much I've heard this song, I never really realised how baggy the drums were. They were kind of remind me of Stone Roses' Happy Mondays. And I'd never noticed that before. Just thought I'd put that in there. Obviously, I remember on tape as well. I think Mikey might correct me. It was the closing of side 1, wasn't it?
No, Only the Wind was the closing of side 1.
Was it? Okay. See, my memory is now I'm a CD person. Yeah, it's just a beautiful song. It's obviously it's about Russia, isn't it? And
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
Mhm.
Decline of Soviet Union, yeah.
yeah, it would have gone over my 15-year-old head at the time. But yeah, no, it's a brilliant song. And as I say, I thought Johnny Marr was on more of the album, but for this pod, I've been kind of researching before. I know he's only on 2 tracks.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, there you go.
Okay.
I've learnt a lot.
Yeah. Grae, sorry, Grae.
So we mentioned already at this time there was always somebody writing a song about Russia or the East-West thing and what have you. And I love this. I think that the revolution to revelation sort of lyric thing, the way it's done. Is there a longer version of this? Because it starts off with that single phrase of the Russian type choir, and then stops. And to my mind, that's been cut off from somewhere else or something, and it should be something greater as an intro. But it just does that one sound, and then it goes into the song. I think it's fantastically done. It's not overtly Russian. It's not overtly Eastern European and what have you. And unless you listen to the lyrics and you listen to the story he's telling. But I love the music, the string quartet ending with the Alexander Barlescu stuff. I think that's so well done, and it's like that the motif that Sting used in Russians.
Oh, yeah.
I think he was Troika, wasn't it, or Troika he used or something like that. It doesn't take anybody else's music, but it gives it that feel at the end. And part of me regrets the fact that it's only used as a little sort of outro, and I'd love to have seen that woven through the song. But I think for me, I've got top trumps. I think this is one of my favorite. This is probably my favorite song on the album. I don't know why, but I just love the whole concept of it.
Wow. Okay. Craig?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Great. It's one of my favorite tracks on the album. It's not my favorite, but it's one of my favorites. And again, I love the orchestral outro on it. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
But I think the whole Russian theme of it is it's twofold really, because it's obviously the fall of the USSR, but it's also a personal one where you're reflecting yourself on a big change, and it's personal reflection. So it's the fact of that you're changing yourself and you're adapting to a change. So it's somebody who's almost using the fall of the Berlin Wall as a metaphor for themselves, where everything that they've known, everything that they've been used to, everything that they've been emotionally involved in has changed, and you've got such a big fundamental, adapting to that change. But this is the thing with me, as what we're talking about, like musically and stuff like that. For me, with this album, with Neil's lyrics, I think I'm more interested in the lyrical content and the melodies and stuff of this than necessarily the music exactly itself, because it's so again, like I said with me, Mikey, this album is so ingrained. I might not listen to it that often, but I know every single word of every single song on this album. You know what I mean? I know it all. I can sing along. I can sing along to it without even, if I don't listen to it for a year or something, I'll come back to it and I'll still know it like the back of my hand. But no, I think it's a beautiful song, and it's not that sad. It is a sad song, but it's not like one of the saddest songs on the album. I think it's just a bit more.
Yeah.
There's a bit more to it.
Yeah, I can only agree with what you've said. I mean, I just want to read the last verse, which is, shall I rewrite or revise my October Symphony, or as an indication, change the dedication from revolution to revelation? Amazing.
It is fantastic.
They need to change it back again now, don't they?
Yeah.
Go on, Mikey.
Just to follow up on what Grae said then, no, there's not another longer version of the song, but that chant at the beginning is actually the Russian word for October.
Ah, right. Okay.
And the reason why it sounds cut off is because it's a sample from, and this is gonna sound wrong, Shostakovich's Second Symphony.
Shostakovich.
That's the one. Thank you. When I first heard this, And even when I went to see them on the performance tour, I just thought, I don't want this. I don't want a history lesson in my Pet Shop Boys music. Thank you very much. Silly me, years later, learned just what I was missing every day. I skipped the track. It's an absolute masterpiece. It really is. There's some amazing backing vocals on this song by someone called Jay Henry. Johnny Marr's guitar work, absolutely beautiful. The Pet Shop Boys asked a string quartet by somebody called Alexander Balanescu to come and actually create the October Symphony for the outro of the song, and parts of it played through the song. They'd actually support the Pet Shop Boys on the 1989 tour, much probably to the dismay of everybody who was in the crowd. I didn't go to see them on that tour, much to my dismay, but I wish I had. There's a lot of callbacks in this song to various specific points in Russian history. When they say things like "worry about February," that's directed to the February Revolution in 1917. You've got the Decembrist conspiracy. You've got the Bolshevik Revolution in October. So, yes, I mean, Neil loves his Russian history. He writes about it in a song around about the nightlife time. I think it was called Silver Age. It was a B-side to I Don't Know What You Want, But I Can't Give It Anymore. And that's another beautiful song. But yeah, it's beautifully arranged. And like you said, John, if you put yourself in the position of somebody who'd grown up in a very staunch communist ideological Russia, who overnight was told, you don't believe in this anymore, you believe in this. It's a seismic change, and that whole juxtaposition of, is it revolution or is it revelation now? I think it's wonderful, and it's really scary to see how things have changed and developed over there since that wall came down.
Okay, let's move on to track 7, which is So Hard, which was a single. Gary.
Yeah, we were talking about it earlier about as a banger, weren't we? But
Yeah.
I remember when it came out, I was like, oh, I'm not sure, because the 3 singles that precede it just takes me back to kind of summer holidays. You had Domino Dancing, Left to My Own Devices, and It's All Right.
Yeah.
For me, they're kind of bright, kind of pop
Dance.
dance.
tracks.
Yeah, and then this came out, and it was like, oh, this is a bit harsh. And the video, I remember seeing the video on the chart show probably, and it took me a while to kind of get into, but I love it now. It's just beautiful. It's got some of his great lyrics in there. I'm terrible at reciting them, so I'll let someone else do it. The one about being unfaithful, but whose matches are those? Just incredible lyrics, and as I've got older as well, they've become even more kind of pertinent, and yeah, you kind of can identify with them as you're an adult, but as a 15-year-old, not so much. But yeah, just a brilliant song, brilliant single.
Okay. Craig?
I think it's a cracking single. It's one of those things that was the lead single from the album, but it's one of those songs that doesn't really represent the album. I mean, lyrically it does. I don't think musically so much of it. But with this song, I can't escape the video from it though, because it's so iconic. And it's just it's one of those things where I sit and watch it and go, right, okie dokie, right, there's the High Level Bridge, there's Wall's End, there's Whitney Bay, there's Tynemouth, oh, they're the one, the Metro, oh, look, there's the Town Moor, oh, look, here we are in that place, the old mall, that was the Botman Swan House roundabout, that's not there anymore, down by the old, by the Tyne Bridge and that, so I can list off all the places where it was shot.
Apologies to anybody who doesn't live or has never been to Newcastle, because
I remember one thing from the chart show. It came up. They were because Gaz's sister's in it. Is that right?
Yes,
correct.
Gaz's sister. Yeah, and remember that.
Yeah,
up on the chart show.
She's the blonde lass near the end at the end who slaps the guy. But yeah, it's an iconic single, iconic video, and yeah, cracking.
Grae?
It was interesting. Gary's like, "Oh yeah, the last one were all sort of dance tracks, and the last 3 singles are great dance songs." And this, I was like, "What?" Because I've just written down, "This is a dance track."
No,
I don't listen to that type of music.
not like It's All Right. It's All Right is a dance.
Yeah.
This
But
is-
I've also put, for me, of the whole album, this is the song that's dated the most because of those synthesizer stabs.
Yeah.
And all that kind of stuff. It's kind of art of noise type sequencing and all that kind of stuff. The 909, I think it is, rather than the 808, because it's got the fatter bass on it, the bass drum, the kick, and all this kind of stuff. And for me, yeah, all right, you've done it before and you've done it better. And I don't think it fit. Like Craig said, lyrically it fits with the album, but musically it's almost as far out there as the How Can You Expect to Be Taken Seriously. It's quite jarring to listen to compared to the rest of the album. Those two songs are the ones that take me out of the reverie.
Right. Okay. I like it. It's a good Pet Shop Boys single for me. Yes, it's probably a little bit dated, but yeah, I can't say anything more than that. I like it. I was obviously aware of it as a single. Yeah. I'll just let Mikey loose on it.
Unleash the hounds.
This was this was the first ever Pet Shop Boys song that I bought in a shop.
on day of release.
Yeah, on the day of release. I only bought it on 12-inch because I didn't have a CD player at the time. So I was only really constantly playing the 12-inch version. And it still to this day holds my #1 slot for best 12-inch remix. Sorry, best 12-inch extended version of any song ever on this planet. I still think it's absolutely stonking. Grae, I agree with you. Quite dated in its Fairlight and sequencer use, but I love that. I think it's quite Giorgio Moroder in a way.
Yeah.
In its style, the video's amazing. After the Behaviour campaign had wound up, they'd done their usual release the videos on a cassette, and it kind of did all the videos from oh bloody hell, before It's All Right. What came out before that? Left to My Own Devices, sorry.
Yeah.
From Left to My Own Devices all the way through to Jealousy. But they had the 12-inch video of So Hard, which had even more clips of Newcastle in it. You had women mopping in metro stations and all sorts. It was absolutely amazing. Yes, I agree. Lyrically, it fits on this album perfectly. Musically, maybe not so much. Chris has actually said he thinks it's a complete blot on this album and it spoils the mood. I think less so than what How Can You Expect to Be Taken Seriously does. It is a true story, Neil has said. It is literally about some people that he knew, where boyfriend 1 comes home, goes into the bedroom, boyfriend 2's lying in bed, and there's literally an ashtray at the side of the bed, and it's like, well, you don't smoke. Who does that belong to? And yeah, to my 17-year-old ears, that didn't really sort of like get the irony of the song, and later years it you kind of like go, yeah, I'm with you now. The B-side to this, a song called It Must Be Obvious, I think is absolutely stunning. That was played to death as much as the A-side was. And that's a song about somebody being in love with somebody and that somebody not realizing that they're in love with them. And there's a line in it which says, everyone knows when they look at us. Of course they do. It must be obvious. And it's just like, well, I can see it. Why can't you? And it's another one of those really clever Pet Shop Boys lyrics.
Yeah.
If you haven't heard the further listening version of this album, dig it out, because It Must Be Obvious would have fit perfectly on this album.
It's on Apple Music
And on Amazon. It's on Amazon as well.
But it's on alternative, isn't it? It's like the greatest.
It is,
greatest,
yes.
greatest B-sides albums ever made. But we're not talking about that.
No, we're going to talk about track 8, which is Nervously.
Oh,
Gary. Oh,
this is another one. This is the soul trilogy. Well, I don't know if it's soul, but it's the kind of melancholy. Back to the melancholy. I'm not sure the song's about kind of a first sexual encounter. I can't really work it out. But as a 15-year-old, not being anywhere near anyone like that, it was kind of, I could identify with the lyrics, kind of, especially nervous boy in several ways. I never knew the world could operate this way. It's that kind of not fitting in again. It's going back to that kind of lyric, and yeah, I like the sounds on this. Listen to it today. It's got kind of I like a nice swoosh. It's got
hey.
I can't. I mean, I've got a music degree, but I just call it a swoosh.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. We know what you mean. Craig, how do you feel about a swoosh?
Oh, I love a good old swoosh.
What do you think of this?
Or a swish.
I like the way that this song is structured. You're completely right, Gary. It's, the anticipation of something new. I think Neil said it was a song about sexual trepidation. It's the build up. If you listen to the song, the start, it feels like it's holding itself back, and it just builds and builds and builds. It builds the tension, builds trepid. It builds the anticipation up to it, and musically, the build fits the lyrics build, and I think it's really, really clever that way on. And yeah, it's a cracking tune.
Great.
It should have had a video of a young couple of teenagers in the cinema with the guy nervous,
Wow.
his hand over the back and like scared to touch his girlfriend, and like it is brilliant the way it is done, but it's also the way it's recorded, because if you think about it, so with the flange on the keyboard part and what have you, and the way it's really quite naked, the whole thing. Initially I thought there was a guitar part, but it's not. It is all synths. But it's quite bare and quite held back, and builds up that tension. And his vocals are so dry on this; they are right in your face. And it's like I've written down, it's very claustrophobic. It gives you that kind of, and the way it's done really draws out the title and tells the story about that nervous trepidation of like, do I or don't I? What how do I tell them how I feel? How do I do what I want to do? I think it's almost painful in the way it's done, and it's done so well.
Again, it's another amazing lyric. It really is.
Yeah.
Three of the verses start with the words "a nervous boy." I just want to read the third verse. Sorry. Yeah, the third verse. A nervous boy from another town, with a nervous laugh and a concentrated frown. I spoke too fast, with watchful eyes, of a recent past and some nostalgic surprise. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. It's amazing. Mikey?
This was another one of those cried myself to sleep songs.
Yeah.
It was just written for me and written about me, is what I thought. It's just brimming with perfection. And what really surprises me is that this song very nearly wasn't on the album. And it was only swapped back in for the song Miserableism at the last minute.
Really?
The only reason being is because Neil doesn't like his vocals on it. He thinks they sound, the way they were recorded, he doesn't like it. He thinks his delivery could have been better. But they didn't have time to re-record his vocals. But that aside, love the swooshes. That at the start and the end. Oh my God, it's inspired. I wish there'd been a bit of Johnny Marr guitar on this one, I have to say. but I can't fault it. I really can't fault it. There's something clever that he does with the lyric as well. There's probably a word for it where you use a word that hinges the last word of the first sentence to the second word of the second sentence. So you've got,
Well, in poetry,
we'll talk about it all some night, but nervously we never get it. Right from the start, I approve of you. So the word right is only used once, but it's a hinge
finishes
for
and
the two
starts.
sentences. Yeah, oh, it's so clever, absolutely clever, and the twinkling sequence of sound at the end. Is it the end?
yeah, because it goes into the next.
It goes straight into the next
Yeah.
track, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, it's just beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful and heartbreaking again. I'm not going to push on anymore. Let's move on.
I can't believe he didn't like the lyrics. They didn't like his performance because I think it makes the song.
Yeah, Chris really didn't like Miserablism and said it was B-side at the best, which is what it was. So I'm glad he stuck to his guns on that one.
Track 9 is The End of the World. Gary?
Yeah, this it probably ties with How Can You Expect to Be Taken Serious is my kind of least favorite, but I'd still love it. But it fits. I think it sounds something like from Very. In fact, there's a track on Very that, and I can't think of what it is, but it does sound very similar to that track. It's just a breezy Pet Shop Boys pop song. Yes, it's a bit. It's obviously light relief because obviously we've got the next track, the last track coming up. So it's probably that. It's probably a little palette cleanser for that.
Probably required by that point, wasn't it? Yeah. Craig?
Yeah, it's a lighter song. Look, if you reading into the lyrics, it means a bit more of an upbeat song, but it's just all about emotional melodramas, isn't it? People being people, and things and stuff like that. It's not the end of the world. It's just calm yourself down.
Yeah.
But I think it's not one of my favorites on the album, but it's better than some. But no, yeah.
Grae?
But they set out to write an album of Stock Aitken and Waterman songs.
Yeah, that got lost.
This is the one where they achieved what they wanted to do. I've written down Pet Shop Boys meet Mel and Kim. I know that's not what I meant, but it's that kind of. It's got the synth bass with the Roland synth bass on it. It's got the 8 drum. It's got ding 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 boom, and it's about 3 years old, 3 years too late. I think 2 or 3 years too late in the sounds that it had. But this is where they achieved what they wanted to do with the album. But I think it suffers because of the rest of the stuff on the album. It's kind of throwaway because it's a light song compared to some of the other material. I get the fact that what you said about maybe it was needed with what's already been on it, and especially with what went before. But for me, it's kind of a throwaway track because it's so light and fluffy, even though the lyrics are. Yeah.
Okay. I got nothing to say other than I think it was needed. If you went from nervously into jealousy, Christ, God knows you'd be responsible for, well, no, I won't finish that sentence, but yeah, it is required. It is required. Mikey, End of the World?
Yeah, it's a foot tapper one, but I do have to retract a statement that I made on the previous song. I was reading the wrong page. This is the one that wasn't supposed to be on the album. I apologise.
It's a Mikeypedia fail.
Mikeypedia fail.
That makes me smile.
I do apologise, listeners. This was the song that Neil didn't like his vocal on. This was the song that very nearly wasn't on the album. Quite rightly.
Grae's outrage was misplaced,
fantastic.
there, wasn't it?
My outrage was misplaced, and I'm perfectly justified in my view of this track. Yeah.
It's a well needed foot tapper, this one, I think.
Yeah.
But I think it beautifully hinges between nervously and jealousy. Like John said, you couldn't have had those two follow each other. I was already destroyed and in a mess by the time nervously had finished. Jealousy would have finished me off completely. That would have been it. You would have been pouring me down a sink. I read that the influence for this was actually Depeche Mode's Enjoy the Silence. I don't know where that lies with people, but that's what Neil has said. They were insanely, insanely jealous of Enjoy the Silence, so they wanted to write something, whether it's the... Yeah, well, I don't know. There must be something there. It's a song about teenage strops, isn't it? I think we've all been there when, well, we know what a house phone was. You know, you be sitting there staring at it, waiting for it to ring. Why hasn't it rang? Why hasn't it rang? It's now 2 o'clock in the morning. Why haven't it rang? But yeah, it's another very, very clever lyric. I've got no problem with it being on the album. It's not a major favorite of mine, but I think it would have made a more interesting single than How Can You Expect to Be Taken Seriously? That's for sure.
Yeah.
But
have they said that publicly about Enjoy the Silence? Have Neil and Chris said that? Have they? Because
yes.
because I've got one ear
let
in
me just...
because I don't know the album.
Yeah, it was Neil. Again, this is the further listening booklet. It says you can hear the influence of Violator on the guitar on this. Hello, Enjoy the Silence. This song was very nearly a B-side. It sounds good now. I think we thought it sounded a bit weak then.
So obviously I don't know the album very well, so while we've been talking through, I've got one ear in playing bits of the song, so I make sure I'm talking about the right track. But you can hear it do the guitar, the sort of the twangy bit is Enjoy the Silence over the back. You can, now that you've mentioned it, I'm like, oh my god, yeah. So it is. Yeah. But they did, and it's nice that they were quite willing to wear their influence on the sleeve. I love the fact when somebody's willing to say, look, we love this album, we're willing to, we will say this is where we came from. That's brilliant. Should have had more guitar in it though.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay.
Get Johnny Marr in again.
Yeah.
He's expensive, Johnny Marr. Okay, final track on the album, Big Finish, Jealousy. Gary.
Yeah. Well, you probably all know. Well, I know Mikey will know. It was one of the first ever Pet Shop Boys songs.
Yes. Yeah.
It was on the demo of their first one.
Yeah.
What can you say about Jealousy? It was such a great single. It was never going to set the charts alight, but just a great song, great lyrics, nice little bit. I don't know if they're real. It always reminds me of that "These Are the Days of Our Lives" by Queen, the percussion at the beginning. But that's just me again. But yeah, just a beautiful, beautiful song, up there as one of their best, in my opinion.
Okay, I don't get the Queen thing, but I'll go with it.
It's like a conga. Congas at the beginning.
Dum, dum, dum.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the rhythm that underlies it. Yeah.
Greg.
I'm going to do a Barnes now with Andrew Barnsley and go
Epic.
epic. Or if I do the season's end at the space reference, Overblown Guff. It's brilliant. It's just a song, of universal truths about friendships and jealousy. I think Mikey, you'll correct us if I'm wrong here. It was inspired by a friend of Neil's who actually got jealous of his relationship with Chris.
Yeah,
and
I read
it was
that.
Correct.
When was this pretty much? It was when Neil and Chris were first met and got together and started doing the band together. So this friend, or whoever it was, just couldn't handle the fact that Neil was having such a new intense friendship relationship with somebody, and it's just a universal truth song, isn't it? It's just everybody suffers from jealousy at some point in their life, and just don't let it control you. But it's absolute cracking song. I think Gary's right. As a single, as a Pet Shop Boys single, if your expectations of what a Pet Shop Boys single is, this is just it's 180 degrees in the other direction. But you just can't fault the the song itself. I mean, was it like 6? Is it 6 and a bit minutes in total, the album version, or something like that? And so
Can't remember.
it's a bit. It's a bit along the lines of Queen releasing Bohemian Rhapsody. It's not a 3-minute pop song in any shape or form.
The end.
But you know,
was it the third single, Mikey?
4th.
This was the 4th.
So this was
The
after
third-
Where the Streets Have No Name.
Yeah, it's odd because it was a Streets Have No Name was like the March or something. This was the May or something, but that kind of time.
Yeah, this was like just before the UK tour, so it was used as a promotional thing for performance more so than Behaviour.
Never gonna be a hit, was it? Never.
But
the video was banned as well, so
yeah.
Oh yeah, it's violent, wasn't it? The old
yeah, hilarious video. Get it watched if you haven't seen it.
Grae?
Everything they wanted to do with this album, everything that they've done with this album coalesces in this song. It's more organic. The drum sounds, the way it's done sounds more analog. It sounds really good. Neil's delivery of the lyrics, his singing is fantastic. It's so good. Chris doesn't play the melody on a piano. It's nice. Yay!
Well done.
I love it. I think it's, for me, although it's not my favourite song on the album, I think it's a high point on the album. They definitely finished it with, like, there was a stamp of this is what this album's about. Reading the lyrics, though, that it's so, it could be anybody and anyone at any point, particularly if you're younger. But even if you're in a relationship, even if you trust your partner, when they go out and you don't get that phone call saying, sorry, I'm going to be late, and you don't know where they are, everybody's felt that. So everybody can relate. And I think that's what makes it so good. It's just, it is such a
universal truth.
A universal truth. That's it. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Okay. Well, I'm going to chuck some Wikipedia facts in that Mikey can debunk very quickly, I'm sure. Apparently, Ennio Morricone was approached to do the orchestral arrangements for this track and took ages over it, and then decided he didn't want to do this and did a song that became It Couldn't Happen Here. So that meant Harold Faltermeyer had to do the score for the album. It's Robbie Williams' favourite Pet Shop Boys song, and on the live album Concrete, Robbie actually sings it, which I've got Concrete, actually, weirdly. I don't know why, but and it's a good version. It's a great way to end this record. It's not a hit single by any means, but it's a fantastic piece of music.
Yeah, speaking of Robbie, though, speaking of Robbie there, because I was watching the documentary back from 2006, which was the Life and Pop one, and Robbie says that his favourite album was Behaviour, and when he was in the early days of Take That, when he was still living in Stoke, and he was bike riding to Manchester on a daily basis, which is like about 100-mile round trip. Behaviour was his album that he was listening to back and forwards in that period of time because it meant so much to him at the time.
Yeah,
I've had
and he actually said that Behaviour was his best friend, and I can relate to that. It sounds weird that you would call an album of music a friend, but I get it. I totally get it.
So
it's a sentiment.
I reckon anybody that listens to albums will have an album that fills that spot for them. Anybody who has grown up as somebody who listens, as you say at the start of the podcast, John, who likes the art form of the album and appreciates the album as an entity, everybody's got something. Everybody has got one that meant that to them as a kid.
Gary, what were you going to say?
Just as talking about influence as well, Branderson from Suede, I'm a massive Suede fan. He there's the closing track from Dogman Star, Still Life, is inspired by the closing orchestral bit of Jealousy, apparently.
Yeah, that's another fantastic track. Love that. Yeah. Love Still Life.
Wow.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Mikey, you got anything else to add about Jealousy?
Bring it home.
Bring us home.
Bear in
Right.
mind, it's a one
So-
part podcast.
Just going back to your concrete comment. Yes, Robbie does a really good version of it. He gets some of the lyrics wrong though. But that whole evening, the musical director was Trevor Horn. Anne Dudley was there. Lol Cream was there. Steve Lipson was there. It's the whole Art of Noise
It's a
setup.
fantastic live album. It really is. Yeah.
It's a great live album. Dig Out Concrete. It's brilliant. Recently went to see them on Dream World Tour. Jealousy was dragged out again. I bawled my eyes out in the audience. It's a wonderful thing to hear. It is my all-time favorite Pet Shop Boys song. It is in the #1 slot. Nothing has ever, well, there's plenty come close to it, but it's never been beaten. Yes, it was on their first ever demo cassette. There was 3 songs. In the Club or in the Queue, Bubba Dubba Dubba Dum, and Jealousy. And it was supposed to be.
Thank God they didn't finish it with a second track.
It was supposed to be on Actually, like you said, with Morricone. It's just absolutely amazing. That line before you get the orchestral play out, that I never knew till I met you. Every time it's just a gut punch. It is absolutely just wonderful. And to say that all of the orchestra on the album version of Jealousy is basically samples is amazing. There's no real orchestra on it at all.
Yeah.
The single version of Jealousy had re-recorded orchestra.
Yeah.
And Chris has actually come out and said the album sounds more orchestral than what the orchestra did on the single, and it cost them an absolute fortune to get an orchestra in. The 12-inch version of Jealousy is absolutely amazing as well. He does some Othello quote at the start of it. Not poppy, nor mandragora, nor all the drowsy syrups of the world shall ever medicine thee to that sweet sleep which thou owest yesterday. It just sums the whole thing up. It's just, in a nutshell, Pet Shop Boys brilliance, and it's the perfect end to a perfect album.
Okay, I think that's a great way to sum up this discussion. There's a lot of love for this record on this podcast, and it means a lot to a lot of the guys on here. I think we're basically saying give it a listen if you've not heard it, aren't we?
Yeah, and you've got I mean, how many different versions are around now? Because you've got what's the latest remaster, Mikey? Was it 2018 or something?
Yeah,
2018. It's basically Behaviour Further Listening. It was originally released in 2001 when it got a remaster, and then when some later albums came out, they remastered the entire back catalogue again in 2018. And it got repressed on vinyl at the same time, which was the first time since its initial release.
Was that the stuff that was out on Universal? Was it because it was Parlophone originally? Was it Parlophone re-released as Universal?
No, it's still Parlophone. It's still Parlophone. So just looking at the record sleeve, the original record sleeve, their attention to detail for their art was just top notch. Back in these days, they never printed lyrics on their albums. It wasn't until Bilingual that they actually started printing lyrics on the albums. But the outer sleeve on the inside was actually the lush red that you would get on the inner sleeve. Much to my dismay, when they reprinted the album in 2018, it was white on the inside of the outer sleeve.
Sacrilege.
Which I was...
Sacrilege.
It is actually, because when they actually when they did the reprint for Bilingual, the inside of the outer sleeve for that was yellow, and they did it for the 2018 version. I'm guessing red cost too much.
Yes.
I mean, the cover's absolutely iconic, isn't it?
Oh, isn't it? So there's 2 nods there. The first nod is the obvious nod, which is Depeche Mode's Violator, with the red rose. But when they were recording with Liza Minnelli for the Results album, She had a very large picture of her mother on the wall, and sorry, Judy Garland, yeah.
I think
and she was
everybody knows.
she was oh mama. She was dressed as a tramp, and she was holding this great big bunch of red roses, and that stuck with Neil. So basically, when they went to do the shoot for Behaviour, they said, go out and get some roses," and they kind of recreated the look for the album. It's stark. I think the pictures of Neil and Chris look almost brutal. The portrait. Chris loves the idea of the back of his head. He says he should always be photographed like that. The empty chair with the roses on the bottom. There's something being said there. I don't know. It's just, it's just classic Pet Shop Boys, isn't it? You know, white sleeve, something going on in the middle. What's not to love?
And then they went out on tour and lost millions.
They put on the show that they always wanted to put on. I think they kind of half got there.
Well, like
I mean,
14, 14 dancers on the stage is never going to be cheap, was it?
See, the performance tour was my second ever gig that I'd gone to. Heart was my first one. Pet Shop Boys was my second. But nobody would come with me. So off I hot-footed to Whitley Ice Rink on June the 6th, 1991. And I must have just sat with my jaw on my chest from start to finish. I've never seen anything like it before.
Showed earlier.
That was the 16 quid ticket, yeah. I've never seen anything like it before. I've never seen anything like it since. Well, actually, I have. Erasure kind of copied their idea of a show with no performers on for their phantasmagorical show, which followed their chorus album. But I think the Pet Shop Boys, being the Pet Shop Boys, wanted to do something operatic and very theatrical in its content. And to a certain extent, they pulled it off. I think they were lambasted as much as they were praised. Massive tour, did a proper world tour, 3 nights at the NEC, 3 nights at Wembley. You know, it was never going to make them any money, and it did lose them a lot of money. They'll have made it back with discography, that's for sure.
So they've done all right since, haven't they? Yeah.
They've done all right since.
Okay. Well, look, I think we've tapped into a few deep-seated emotions tonight. So I want to thank you all for being on here. But
it's been an epic episode.
Well, yes, yeah. Thank you for listening. If you're still with us, this is, well, I would say this is probably about 3 times as long as the album is now. But yeah, no, it's been great talking to these guys about the record. Highly recommended. As usual, if you give it a listen and you've not heard it before, or even if it's one of the ones that you love, put your comments in the Facebook group. We'd love to hear from you in that. We will be along in a couple of weeks with another completely different record to discuss up its own backside. But all that remains is to thank our guest this evening, Gary Page.
Not everybody.
Thanks, Gary. Graham Tennick.
Thanks very much. It's been educational.
It has, yeah. Thanks, Mikey K.
Thanks for having me, guys.
No, thanks for your research, mate. You've got incredible knowledge about this album and this band. And thanks to my podcast other half, Craig Houston. Wrong podcast.
We'll have to explain that at some point.
Yeah, not yet. Craig Houston.
Hey, thank you.
It's good night from me.
And it's good night from him.
Take care.
Oh, and stay alive. Hey. Thanks for listening
to Planet Music from the makers of Planet Marzipan.
If you like what you've heard, please like and subscribe, and maybe even join our Facebook discussion group.
You can contact us at planetmarzipanpodcast@gmail.com.